The Choir Guys podcast wouldn't be possible without our amazing sponsors. To see the full list and learn more about them, visit thechoirguyspod.weebly.com/r-sponsors. Now here's a word from this week's featured sponsors. With Class Intercom, you can let students create social media content while teachers review and approve, so it's not all on your plate. We've used it for 3 years, and it's a game changer. Learn more at classintercom.com. Choir directors, are you looking for a new fundraiser? We've worked with Kansas Made for over 5 years, and last fall alone, we sold over $35,000 in pastries. They are that good. Visit kansasmade.com today. Encore Tours helps choirs perform around the world with guaranteed audiences, stunning venues, and expert support. Start planning today at encoretours.com. When it comes to insurance, one size does not fit all. At Hames Insurance, they're an independent agency, so they work for you, not just one company. With multiple options for home, auto, life, and more, they'll find the best fit for your needs and budget. Visit hamesinsurance.com and let them help protect what matters most. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Choir Guys podcast. My name is Blake Richter.
And I'm Danny Gutierrez.
We have a very special guest joining us today as we spring into the last quarter of the school year. You see what I did there, Danny?
I'm not going to acknowledge that.
Okay.
Our guest today is a Minneapolis-based composer, lyricist, pianist, and educator. He was awarded the ACDA Genesis Prize in 2020 and the American Prize in Choral Composition in 2019. His work has been commissioned and recorded by all state honor choirs, in addition to youth, church, college, and professional choirs around the world. In 2025, Navona Records released All Is Miracle, the first full album of his choral works recorded by the award-winning vocal ensemble Transept.
He enjoys working at the intersection of the sacred and secular, and his lyrics and music invite the choir and audience to be agents of hope, grace, and compassion in the world. He has an undergraduate degree from Augustana University, a master's degree in education from the University of St. Thomas, and an MFA in music composition from Vermont College of Fine Art. His work is published by Walton, Santa Barbara, Galaxy, Morningstar, Alfred, Hal Leonard, Beckenhorst, Gentry, Hinshaw, and Carl Fisher Music Publishers. Man, we got to add some more to that. Please welcome Kyle Pederson. We have been wanting to have you for forever. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Good to be with you.
Yeah, and I mean,
So I have some questions though that I don't know. Are you currently a music educator? Is this something you work in school?
Never officially a music educator. I was an educator, geography teacher, so social studies more broadly.
You taught geography?
I did. Loved it. About 10 years.
Wow, that's crazy. And at what level?
7th grade mostly, but then 7 through 12 more broadly.
So you were a geography teacher and kept this secret power of composer in your back pocket, just like kept it there. Tell me, you came up with some geography compositions.
Oh man, about 3 dozen of them.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I was hoping for.
Yeah, with tons of jingles. It was like the first week in that classroom where I actually shared my geography classroom with an itinerant music teacher. She was there for one period a day. She'd wheel out her piano and make room for the globes and the maps that I had spread around. And at one point I said, just maybe leave that thing here. Leave that piano. I've got an idea. That first week we were trying to teach the kids latitude and longitude, which way the lines go. And, they were all over the board, couldn't keep it straight. And so I just kind of wandered back to the piano and said, it's like the lines of latitude go the fat way, latitude, fatitude. And we were off and running, kind of a blues riff on the piano. I tried to do my best Elvis impression. That failed, but the idea was a hit. And so that was the first of many.
I think our listeners might need a taste of that blues jingle.
The latitude, fatitude one?
Can we at least have the text of it, because that's important?
Latitude latitude, latitude, it goes the fat way. Uh-huh, ooh, yeah. Longitude, 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 it goes the long way. Ooh, oh, yeah. Latitude runs east to west, but it measures north to south. That is how I remember it best. Whoo! And then you go off, and there's movements, dance moves. Yeah, if I had my piano fired up underneath, I'd play the little blues riff. But picture 12 bar blues, and there you go.
And that one's
Your
published
students,
by Hinshaw.
Yeah, that's going to be my next submission to them. I'm
Yes.
saving them in case I hit a dry spell.
your students must have actively protested when you stopped working there. They must have been super appalled. Like, why would this brilliance of geology singing amazing guy who plays piano
Geology?
leave us at some wait, is it
Geography?
right? Geography. That's what I was saying.
Almost identical.
Geology is a different
You're
field.
forgiven.
Are they
Yeah.
almost identical?
No, they're actually completely different, but they have the geo part of it together.
They do, and I love both. And we would occasionally study rocks in that
Yeah,
class. So
there you go.
It's all good.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, I may have worn out. I think by the end of my tenure there, it's hard to know. Some of the kids may have been like, we've sung enough. It's time for them to move on. So, but yeah, it was tough to leave the classroom. So many relationships, so much creative sort of energy all the way around. It was awesome.
Yeah.
But what's wild is you didn't leave the music education classroom.
You just
You
left the
left
classroom.
the classroom, which is so interesting to see, a composer who is very well known, like yourself, coming out of the geography classroom. I mean, that's kind of it's a very unique spin on things. Like, I'm trying to think of other composers. Well, I guess, you could look at like Tony Silvestri, but he's not really. Does Tony Silvestri have compositions out there?
I think
He's got at least one. He and Eric Whitaker switched roles at least once,
Oh,
where
wow.
Eric wrote the text and he wrote a lovely piece out there published by Walton.
Oh, wow.
Really, really a nice little piece. I don't know if he's done anything since then.
Okay.
That's foreshadowing to our next episode because our guest is Tony Silvestri. So
Oh,
that'll be super
Hey.
fun.
he's amazing.
Yeah.
He's
That'd be
amazing.
For those of you that don't know out there, Kyle is one of the nicest people in our profession. He's honestly just one of the nicest people on the planet. The first time I talked with Kyle, it was, as a lot of music educators do, we reach out to composers over Facebook Messenger and we just shoot our shot. But I think it was my first year at Nixa Junior High, and we had recorded Bringers of Noise. And that was back when I was like, yeah, I'm going to make music videos every year of my kids, and we're going to film these. And, after about 2 years of doing it, I was like, I'm worn out from doing this. And also the kids were like, why are we spending hours filming ourselves singing different songs? However, the girls that did Bringers of Noise, they love doing that because it's obviously a bop. But I reached out to you. I was like, hey, can I post this on our school district website or YouTube page? I sent it to you, which was kind of like I guess for lack of a better word, a ballsy move. Like, I had already recorded it. I've already kind of broken the law. And I was like, hey, can I still break the law some more? And you were like, yeah, please do that. And then we just kept talking after that. And you have done a lot of things for my career that you may not know. You have like referred me to do all-state choir stuff, referred me to, maybe in the future go conduct in Asia. And we've only met one time, and it was finally last year in Dallas at ACDA. I remember we like locked eyes across the room and we were like, oh my gosh, finally we get to speak in person. So
It was a magical moment.
it was, it was basically a rom-com, but, not at the same time. Rom-com meaning romantic composer. No, I don't know. I don't know about that. It wasn't romantic. It was bromantic.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely locked eyes and sort of we need to connect.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I think I knew right from the get-go when you sent that video, I was like, this is a guy that gets it. Because I was, I'm fully immersed in the middle school sort of culture and just know all about that. And then that video was so amazing. I was like, who is this guy? And so then I went down the rabbit hole and researched your website, found out all the things you do. The thing joined your social media pages, and it's like just saw all the crazy stuff that you're doing with your middle level kids, and it's like, this is exactly right. This is exactly what the best middle level education is like. So, um, you just get it. So it's really fun for me to be able to recommend you to various things, because I just, once you see that in action, you're like, the kids need more of this.
Well, thanks. I have not written a jingle about longitude and latitude, though, so I do need to up my game just a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
I just want to know if you recommended him for Asia before or after you met for the first time.
It was
It was
after. It
after.
was after. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and
He didn't blow that first impression.
it's like it's kind of close to Iran, and with I mean, it's not. It's like from Missouri to Chicago away from Iran, but I think I was asked because everybody was like, only an idiot would come over right now.
Yeah.
No, but it's in Oman, and like it's one of the safest countries in the world. So like I did my research and everything, and I don't know if I'm going over there or not, but I definitely am interested in the idea of doing that. So thanks again for even making
bet.
it a possibility. So
It's a lovely country, lovely people, incredibly hospitable. And the festival that they put on is top notch. So if you go, you'll have a blast.
well, sweet. I appreciate it. Well, Danny, let's continue with that conversation. We know some things about your journey, Kyle, but Danny's got more to ask.
Well, so you're a geography teacher. When did you start teaching geography?
Would have been maybe like 1997, 98, right around there. So
So you
right
said you
after
taught for
college.
10 years.
Yeah.
So 98 to 2008, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then at that point, what did you do?
So I had a chance to start a company, a continuing education company, teaching teachers, and I formed that company with a fellow geography teacher. We geography teachers, we've got lots of interests. And the company was called Learner's Edge, and it was a relicensure and continuing education ed company. And it started off locally. We offered courses to just people kind of in the Minnesota, Iowa area. Eventually, it grew and got big enough so that I couldn't both remain in the classroom and help grow the company. So I left the classroom, and then helped grow the company full time, and did that for about 8 to 10 years. Um, all the while playing piano for this lovely church choir, a Lutheran church choir up in the Minneapolis area, and had been playing piano for a couple decades, even prior to that, all the way back in junior high. And I loved it. I've always loved playing piano for choirs. And at some point in that journey, I asked my choral, the conductor of the church choir, if I could arrange a piece. Uh, I'd heard enough lousy church music by that point, and I thought, maybe I could give my hand to this. Um, and he said, sure, give it a shot. And so I did, and I arranged a hymn, and it wasn't good. Really was a mess. And even the normally gracious, kind sopranos even had some passive aggressive little comments that they made about the piece. But I was undaunted, because I just loved the whole process, loved setting up the equipment, loved getting the software, loved hearing it come to life, loved revising it. And so, even though that particular piece never got great, um, I thought, this is what I want to do. So I approached my business partner and I said, I want to sell my half of the company and go write music. And so he said, all right, the guy's got to do what a guy's got to do. So I sold my half of the company, went back to grad school out in Vermont, got a degree in music composition, and now have been doing this for about 10 years.
Wow. So a true entrepreneur. I love the story. I love hearing the background there. So I just noticed, and sorry if this moves into later questions, Blake, but I was just wondering. So going back to the whole teaching geography thing, so when you taught geography, were you involved with the choir program there as well, or had any experience there?
Not at all. No, it was a lovely. choir director who was there, who eventually commissioned me one of my first commissions. Actually, it was the Bringers of Noise commission. Blake
Oh, nice.
was my former colleague at the middle school. I think once I went in and I played the piano for them on one piece that was more difficult than their accompanist wanted to tackle, and that was it. I never clinicked them. I wasn't writing music at that point, other than the geography jingles. Um, Never, if you would have asked me, in a few years, are you going to be writing choral music? I would have said, heck no, why would I be doing that? That's the last thing that I would be doing.
Well,
Interesting.
when did you compose your first piece though? I know there's a little story on your website. I did my research, but when did you compose your first piece?
Well, if you consider that the first piece, it would have been like in kindergarten or first grade, and it was amazing, man. I mean, when the piano arrived in our living room when I was in kindergarten or so, I hopped up on that thing right away. Did not want to wait for lessons, which I knew would be happening like in second grade. That was kind of the traditional start time back then, back in the 70s. Uh, and and so yeah, for the first several years there, kindergarten through sixth grade, I would tell people that I was going to be a composer. This is what I wanted to do. And then eventually, for whatever reason, other that's kind of a dream that ended up being deferred. Other things came along. There weren't a whole lot of composers in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, that were, I could kind of model my future career on. So that was the first few compositions were way back in the 70s.
Okay, wow. So going back to your compositional proper era, I guess. So I've noted, I would say, like, if I had to give a few comments of things that I would say that's very appealing about your music, one is very inspiring text, right? You tend to get uh, texts that are very relatable and very relevant and very like deeply meaningful. Really interesting, just compositional ideas in general. And also, one thing I want to point to is very favorable voicing, right? So I feel like the voicing makes a lot of sense and can be usable for a lot of different groups. There is voicing that is usable for middle level choirs. And that same voicing could actually be very usable for high school level choirs, which made me think I was so sure, like I wish I would have known the background beforehand, but I was so sure that you taught specifically middle level choirs. Like, how could he not? He really understands the voicing well. So either you learned real quick or you're working with someone that helped you on the voicing ideas that would eventually like lead you on that path. So is there some background there?
Thanks for that. I'm glad that the voicing strikes you as accessible. I think my experience playing piano for the church choir for so many years, forcing myself to listen um, and and really understand what the choir sounds good singing, what's difficult for them. And I wasn't paying particular attention. It wasn't like it was a conscious sort of a thing. I soaked it in for a couple of decades, sort of listening and realizing this can work, this can't, and then leading sectionals. So I was leading sectionals for those 20 years as well. Um, so I think that just sort of I got intuited into my noggin. Um, I don't know if I particularly studied anything in grad school that sort of helped with that. I certainly look at a lot of music. So if I find something that I love to sing or that I think choirs sound particularly good at, I will get a copy, keep it in my stash, and look at it and kind of analyze who's doing what. I had a lot of Roger Emerson stuff, for example, growing up. We sang a lot of his stuff in junior high and high school. I actually still had a couple of the original copies. I don't know how that ended up with me, 40 years later when I should have turned it in at the end of all of those years. But and he's a master at especially the middle level voicing. So just simply looking at some of these kinds of things and seeing what the experts and the greats are doing, that was always really helpful.
Yeah,
But then
that's awesome.
I always, sing through every line, try to make sure that things are super accessible. I've got a couple of, more sophisticated pieces that require an upper level choir that's got experience to do. But for the most part, I really want really all my stuff to be accessible to multiple levels so that they can have success doing it. So I'm very intentional about trying to make sure that music works for a variety of voices.
Yeah, I just know from my perspective, like whenever someone's asked me for just compositional ideas or just like literature ideas, I will often direct them to your music because I just feel like it's usable for so many. I feel confident that it's usable for a lot of different levels. So it just makes life easier. And I think accessible music is so important. Once the music has like extended range techniques, if it gets too low, too high, then it just kills off like half
Uh,
of the market, like right off the bat. And I feel always guilty about recommending pieces like that. I'm like, well, maybe one of my choirs could do it, like the advanced choirs, but it's just not very user friendly for a lot of other choirs. So thank you for being mindful of that. That's awesome.
yeah, awesome. Appreciate that.
Yeah, and I like kind of what Danny was talking about earlier, like specifically the text of your pieces. I feel like they just kind of hit home, especially with. I mean, I feel like they hit home really, really, really hard with middle school students. And obviously, you taught middle school for forever. First of all, I always like to ask this of people who are dumb enough or psychotic enough to teach middle school. Why did you choose middle school? I know why I did, because, I mean, it's the best. But why are you psychotic enough just like us?
So it didn't start off psychotic. My very first year out of college, I got a job in Northfield, small little suburb of the cities up here, and I taught high school, and I loved it. And I thought high school, this is where I'm going to be for the next 30, 40 years. But then that was only an 8/10 position, and then they wanted me to teach soccer, and I didn't want to be a full-time soccer coach. That would have been a complete mess. And
Hold on,
so,
question.
yeah,
I'm so sorry to stop you. What does this mean? Does this mean you're a soccer person? Do you like
only
soccer?
through 10th grade. And now my daughter loves it, and I love watching it, but man, I was not.
Ooh,
I had
that's what he wanted to know, if
many,
you like to watch
many better
it. So
sports.
Are you
Yeah.
are you a fan of
No,
soccer? Like,
not a
do you follow
fan.
professional soccer? Okay, never mind. We
I'll,
can move on.
I'll watch some, but I'm a fan of my
Okay,
daughter's soccer. Yeah.
okay, got it.
Um, and and so I said, this is not going to work for me. And so they said, well, we can't rehire you if you're going to not be if you're not going to be the soccer coach. And so I ended up casting the net wide up in the cities and ended up getting interviews primarily at middle schools because that was where the openings were for young teachers who didn't have much experience. And said yes to this position in Lakeville, the junior high I ended up working at. Not really sure if I would love it, but man, right away, the energy, the um, the slight naivete combined with willingness to do almost anything. Um, it was so refreshing. I mean, I had a good first year at the high school, but just that sheer the energy and noise and the creativity that was kind of just flowing and willingness to follow you and do anything with you and for you. That was something at the middle level that I thought I need more of this. So it was a match from the get go.
yeah. Do you ever feel like your pieces, I know, again, you didn't teach middle school choir, or I guess you didn't teach any choir besides at the church level, like accompanying and all that kind of stuff. Do you feel like you think about some of those middle school kids that you had every time you write a piece, whether that's thinking of finding the text or writing the text or anything like that? Do you think of those kids in your geography classes whenever you write a piece?
Yeah, I think for sure there were some students that specifically some particular students that stood out, as they do in sometimes for reasons that they're just amazing and awesome. And you're like, I hope my eventual, if I have kids, they're going to be just like this. And then other students who struggle and who need lots of assistance, and you just feel for and your heart goes out to. Um, and then I also taught high school. So I taught sort of some extracurricular activities. I was a tennis coach for a while. So I had a lot of experience working with high school students as well. So sort of collectively, my experience with the middle level and the high school level, um, and what those 10 years or so teaching them, that certainly influences sort of how I the stuff I know that they're going through, that they're dealing with, how I sort of process what might resonate. And then, of course, my own kids as well. They're 14 and 12 now. And I very much see the struggles and the joys and successes that they go through. So it's kind of taking probably all of those perspectives and funneling them into the bucket of potential concepts and lyrics and texts to explore.
Yeah, I love on your website, like people talk about Kyle Pederson's music, blah 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 blah. It says all these amazing things, obviously, and it gets down to my wife That sounds a little bit weird right there. And then it gets to your kids
Yeah.
like, Daddy, just scoot over so I can play now at the
Yeah.
piano.
I suppose I should update a couple of those since they're older now, and now they just don't. They're like, oh yeah, Dad's down there working. It's embarrassing. I think they think that I'm the most embarrassing person on the planet. They'll hear me singing through lines and banging on the drum, banging on the piano, and they just kind of shake their head and like, oh gosh, he's at it again. That's so embarrassing for Dad.
You're like, do you want your electric bill paid for? Like, what do you want me to do? Are your kids in choir at all?
No, no, they both love sports. I don't want to push the music in
Yeah.
the choir too much, but I'm hoping my daughter it really does not have any interest in singing, other than in the car and at home. My son, I think, will eventually be able to join choir. He's got a great voice, and I think has a real knack. I think musical theater would be in his future as
Oh,
well.
yeah.
But right now, he's just not quite ready yet, and so I don't want to overstep
Yeah.
my bounds there.
Do you ever go in and work with the choirs at their schools at all? Or like, have they programmed any of your pieces and then they
Yeah.
have friends in choir that are like, your dad wrote a bop of a piece?
Yeah. So this last year, when my daughter was an eighth grader, I was invited to work with all the choirs at their high school. And that was a year before Beck and my daughter got there. And so she heard sort of that, and through that, she is so glad. She has commented multiple times this year, like, I am so glad, Dad, that was last year that you worked with the choirs. Had that been this year, I would have just died. I would not have gone to school that day. Would have been so embarrassing for you, for me, for everybody. And I was like, what is with the embarrassment level? And I used to work with them at the church once in a while, and that was a more normal sort of thing for them.
Yeah. Well, that's just, I'm looking at what my future will be. I know, like, Danny's son, he's in our choir, and we did one of Danny's pieces this last semester. And he didn't ever, like, he thought it was cool, right? He wasn't embarrassed by it or anything, Danny.
Oh no, he thought it was cool. Yeah,
That's
he thought it was
awesome.
cool.
So
It's been fun. It's been fun, like having Zane, and he's my son, Zane in choir. He did music before, and he liked it. But since he's done choir this past year, it's been his favorite class, which is so cool. And it's also
Yeah.
kind of caused them to look at me a little differently. So before, like, I absolutely didn't know what I was ever talking about, and now he kind of listens a little bit more because he sees that. I'm a little more respected amongst his peers, and same thing with Blake. He thought Blake was a total loser,
Yeah.
and then no, just
He
kidding,
said it
just
many
kidding,
times.
Blake. He loves Blake big time. But no, he's come around, and yeah, he thinks it's cool that I wrote a piece, and the other kids like it too. So he thinks that's fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how my daughter Ivy will be. I've got, over a decade probably before that happens.
Once
but
she realizes that you wrote the Fox, she's gonna be like, "You wrote this, Dad? What?"
I did not write it, just arranged it with her Uncle
Sweet
Taylor.
piece, by the way. Super sweet piece. I know you don't like the accompaniment that you wrote, but
I
it's a
hate
super
it.
sweet piece.
It's terrible. Actually, we just Susan kind of asked me to do a tenor bass version of it, and so I just revisited it. And I don't like the accompaniment, but I think it's when I hear our accompanists do it, because we're doing it with our kids right now, the tenor bass version. When I hear our accompanists do it, I'm like, okay, it actually kind of makes sense.
Of course.
I guess it's just like when I hear some people that aren't great at syncopated rhythms, when I hear them do it, that it's struggle.
That is a always an issue with my accompaniments, trying to walk that balance between something that's engaging and fun to both play and to listen to, but then also not making sure it's accessible enough so that someone's not going to fail doing it. Very tough balance.
Yeah, no, for sure. If you're a teacher, admin, or activities director managing school social media, stop doing it all yourself. We've used Class Intercom for 3 years now, and it has completely changed the way we run our accounts. Here's how it works. You can empower many content creators, even students, while moderators review and approve content before anything goes live. It's secure, it's simple, and it helps teach students real-world skills in digital communication. And the best part? It connects to all of your school's accounts, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and Nextdoor into one dashboard. Less chaos, more content, and way less work on your plate. Check out classintercom.com and give your school's social media the upgrade it deserves. Do your students dread sight singing? Do you dread teaching it? Then it's time to try the S-Cube sight singing program for beginners. Created by middle school teacher Dale Duncan, S-Cubed is part method and part philosophy. 3/4 learning and 1/4 fun equals success. It's just about 5 to 10 minutes a day, 3 to 5 times a week, and your kids will want to do it. I speak from experience. Every lesson builds confidence, trains both the ear and the eye, and gets students sight reading faster than ever, without skipping essential steps. With built-in games, competition, and classroom-tested strategies, S-Cube turns the most dreaded part of choir into the most rewarding. Find out why many teachers are saying this program changed everything. Check it out now on Teachers Pay Teachers. Just search S-Cubed Sight Singing. Encore Tours is your partner for international performance travel. Whether you lead a school, church, or community choir, they help you design custom tours that hit all the right notes. You'll get dynamic venues, guaranteed audiences, and full support every step of the way. From the first planning call to your final performance overseas, Encore takes care of the logistics so you can focus on the music. Visit EncoreTours.com to start planning your custom tour today.
So you recently did a recording with Transept. Can you tell us a little bit about that and where people can find that album?
Sure, they can find it on all the streaming platforms
Mhm.
and my website, and it's out and about. And it was a true highlight. Transept is a Sioux Falls, South Dakota-based group. They've got a core there, a really amazing arts community, musical community in Sioux Falls. And then they augment it with about 12 people that they fly in from all over the world. We even had one person flying from India to record. So there is a consort that's about 12 to 14 members, and then the larger ensemble, when everyone's together, is maybe 40 or so people. You make a lot of racket with 40 people singing. We recorded in the cathedral, the St. Joseph's Cathedral, which is this architecturally award-winning cathedral in downtown Sioux Falls. Stunning acoustic, I think 8-second reverb. And it was great. We got a chance to sort of Timothy Campbell, the director, and I grew up in Sioux Falls together as well. So we had kind of connections way back when. And we wanted to make an album sort of around the sort of my more elevated, sophisticated pieces. So no middle school and high school bops in this particular record. And kind of all around the concept of wonder and gratitude and the miraculous in the everyday. We had a chance to do, I think, 4 world premieres. There's a bunch of new instrumentation I wrote for some of the pieces that people would recognize as maybe just piano. We were able to add strings and some winds to that. Yeah, and it was just, we went down about a year and a half ago that we recorded it over the course of a couple of days. And then we had a concert for the Sioux Falls community, which was also amazing because I got a chance to perform and have some of the people who grew up with me in Sioux Falls decades ago, my old choir teachers, piano teachers, directors, all of those kind of gathered there in that space. So it was really awesome to see all of that.
The ones that knew that you would be obsessed with maps when you got older.
Right? They're like, well, that was an interesting detour that he took there in the middle of this journey. And yeah, the recording is just absolutely stunning. We brought in Blenton Allspaw, who is a Grammy-winning engineer from Sound Mirror out in Boston. So
that's what I thought did it, because I've seen them record with Missouri State, and they can really knock it out. Like, they are incredible.
So good. So that was my first commercial recording. I had never been through that process before. Loved it from start to finish. Hope to have a chance to do it again. Yeah, it's been fun to see that album get traction, and then to also see some of the new individual pieces in that also start to take off in the choral world.
Yeah. And the album is All Is Miracle?
All Is Miracle.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what went into that title?
Oh man. So if you ask if you ask my kids and my wife, they are not a big fan of the title. They're like, Dad, it doesn't make sense. All is miracle.
I think it
Do you
makes
mean
perfect sense.
everything is a miracle? All things are miraculous? Like, what do you mean all is miracle? And for some reason, both Tim, the director of Transept, and I landed on this all is miracle. Like, that's got to be it. It's beautifully concise and it says everything it needs to say. That all, yeah, it's like poetic, not quite grammatically correct, but that's okay. Um, yeah, we knew that we wanted to have pieces that all sort of hung around this idea of wonder and gratitude and finding the sacred things that we oftentimes take for granted in our daily life, sort of recognizing those and lifting them up and pausing and sort of holding them with gratitude and wonder. And Tony Silvestri even wrote an amazing text for one of the pieces that ended up being the title track and first one on the album, also called All Is Miracle. So that was a little bit about that. But it's a bit of a lightning rod of a title for some
I
folks.
like it. Also, I do wonder if Tony Silvestri ever sleeps. I guess we'll find out on the next episode because, like, he writes for literally everyone, and I feel like every new choral work that is coming out, text by Anthony Silvestri.
Did he write the text for Sleep?
He did. He
We
did.
should we should sing that song for him next time.
I
Should be like,
don't
you need
even
to
want to attempt that. I
sleep.
don't want to
Yeah, no, I
attempt
don't
that at
either.
all.
Just kidding.
Yeah,
I
he's
will
so
cut that
delightful
from
to
the
work with.
episode. Yeah. Okay, so Kyle, you are known to present on the idea of co-creation, so empowering singers and directors to make pieces of music their own. Can you talk about this from both maybe a conductor's perspective and a composer's point of view, or also a singer's perspective as well?
Yeah. Um, so this stems from my work in the classroom when I realized that the thing that I loved most about teaching was creating, being part of the creative process and creating the songs, creating skits and creating simulations and then I also realized that that creative process was so engaging for the students as well. Like when I would ask them to create something to demonstrate their learning, if they were creating skits and dialogues, if they were creating countries, if they were creating songs, they were a whole lot more interested, engaged. They'd learn more. There was just more joy in the classroom as well. And it's like this is what education is at its best, in my opinion. So when I'm looking at composing, um, there's an interesting metaphor that some composer gave when I was listening to them early on in my career, and they were talking about how for them composing is like creating a snow globe, and they sort of held up a snow globe and they said this perfect little environment that you put all the pieces in. You've got the little house, the snowman with the scarf. You've got the little the snowflakes, and then the choir comes along and kind of shakes it up a little bit. And depending on how they shake it, it kind of has its different it resonates differently, looks a little bit different. And and I never really loved that metaphor. And there are certainly times when I think about my own work, and yeah, I create like a little snow globe world where I kind of have all the elements contained in just the right way that I want them on occasion. But in general, I just think that that's not empowering enough for choirs. Like you can certainly do it that way, but there are other ways to approach composing and choral singing as well, where the students or the singers, whatever age they might be, are more invested and have a more active role in bringing this thing to life in a way that makes sense for them. So I think the very first time I did this was with a piece called Heartbeat. And Heartbeat starts off as kind of a pop ballad, and then it morphs into a gospel drive section, and then it goes back to pop ballad to end. So it's kind of slow, big energy, slow ending. And that's how I wrote it. And I submitted it to Santa Barbara. And the editor at the time um, said that they liked the piece, but they thought maybe it would be better to end big. So to kind of cut the piece at the big climax instead of the slow sort of back to the beginning sort of down tempo ending. And I thought about that, and I really do love editorial suggestions from publishers. I know some composers aren't real big fans of getting editorial feedback, but I love it. And I was like, I lived with that feedback for a while, and I was like, you know what? I kind of I could see that working, that some directors would want to end big as a closer for their performance. And so I brought back a suggestion, and I said, what do you think about making an option? We can end it big right here, cut it off, and I can write it there. Or I can say, if you would like to have the optional down tempo ending to bring back the opening motive, skip this line, go directly here, and take this second ending. Um, Santa Barbara said, yeah, we can. That's interesting, unique. We haven't done that before, but let's try it. And so that's the published version, and I love it. And so whenever I have a chance to get out and work with teachers, I kind of ask them, how many of you chose the up ending, the down ending? I feel a little vindication in my initial sort of intuition because more choose the down ending than the up ending.
Yeah.
But some of the discussions that teachers have had with their students have been, I think, really, really interesting. Some, of course, directors just choose it themselves, knowing what they need to have it in a concert. But others have left the decision to their students, and they're like, "We're going to learn it both ways, and then we're going to have some conversation, and then eventually you guys decide if you want to end it up or down." So I love that. So that's one example. I just wrote a piece that's just coming out with Hal Leonard. It's a arrangement of "Dream On" by Ben Rector, one of my favorite singer-songwriters.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's a perfect graduation song. It's about, the dreams that we have initially as young kiddos, and then how sometimes those dreams sort of die and fade away. But if we keep dreaming, we can do great things. I love that. And I thought, well, it would be nice if we provide an opportunity for students to talk about their dreams or share some dreams and so in the middle of this piece, I created a sort of just a looped vamp where the choir sort of oohs and ahs in the background under the piano. And then if the choir chooses to do this, then students can come out and present dreams that they've had, they don't want to let go of, dreams that they have for their future. I know one choir that premiered this actually had, the graduation pictures. They took their baby picture, juxtaposed that with the graduation picture, and that was in the middle of this section. And they just kept looping that vamp as long as it needed to. And they were in charge of kind of creating that and bringing it to life in a way that made sense for them. So those are just a couple examples.
Yeah, I love that. We actually we had a district honor choir about a month ago, and they had programmed Heartbeat, and I saw that there was the optional ending. I don't think they took the optional ending, but also I don't know because they ended up having to cut the piece, which was unfortunate because the kids just weren't prepared on it enough out of all the kids. And I was so sad about it because my co-teacher Lauren had spent so much time creating extra practice tracks for that piece so that way it could be successful. But apparently other directors did not make those practice tracks for their kids.
Yeah.
So there were some of our kids that were in tears because they wanted to perform that so bad. Hey, but at least you got the money from the sheet music, so.
Oh, man. Rolling it from that festival alone.
Yeah, just from those 300 kids.
Yeah. But thank you for not using just photocopied copies.
No, I mean, people are kicked out of the choir if they have photocopies of it, so we do it right. Choir directors, if you're looking for a new fundraiser that actually works, Kansas Made is the one. Danny and I have worked with them for over 5 years now, and last fall, our program sold over $35,000 worth of pastries. Why? Well, because the product is delicious, the process is easy, and the company is amazing to work with. Students are excited to sell, families love to buy, and everything arrives in a timely manner. It's a stress-free, high-return fundraiser that we genuinely enjoy doing every year. So if you're ready for a fundraiser that feels like a win on all fronts, visit kansasmade.com. If you're still printing sight reading examples or spending hours creating them yourself, stop. Sight Reading Factory lets you instantly generate unlimited sight reading exercises for your choir at any level, in any key, with your choice of rhythms, intervals, and even solfege. But here's the kicker. Sight Reading Factory now includes auto assessment and gradebook integration so students can complete assignments independently, get real-time feedback, and you get grades without lifting a finger. Plus, you can send individual parts or even full octavos straight to your singer's devices with live practice. You can get all of this for as low as $3 per student. Check it out at sightreadingfactory.com, and thank you to Sight Reading Factory for sponsoring this portion of today's episode. When you purchase music from Endeavor Music Publishing, you're making a statement. Composers earn 50% of royalties, not the standard 10%. That's over 5 times more for every sale. Endeavor isn't just fair. They also publish incredible new choral works. Take the Daniel Gutierrez choral series, including the powerful new piece by Danny, Fortes Fortuna, designed for modern choirs and full of energy and musicality. Choosing Endeavor means supporting emerging talent and getting repertoire that resonates. Visit EndeavorMusicPublishing.com and see why fair pay and great music go hand in hand.
All right. Well, so I have another question for you. So we've noticed that you've gone the Richard Wagner route on a lot of your music. So you're writing the libretto and the music, which is pretty awesome. So that's a pretty unique thing, I would say, within the choral field, writing your own text as well. So, but I've noticed, like I said before, your texts are very relevant and very on the nose for a lot of younger people today. What is your process for coming up and writing text?
It's a lot of trial and error. Rarely, if ever, have I written a full text out and then thought to myself, now I'm going to set this entire text. It's usually a phrase, sort of a phrase will pop out. So, for example, with "Does the World Say," and that's a piece I know that Blake, at least you're familiar with.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, never heard of it. The initial phrase for that was in my head was "When the World Says." So that was actually the very first thing that popped into my head, and that popped into my head as I was playing sort of that opening little verse riff on the piano. And that's oftentimes how things work for me. I will be playing something on the piano, some sort of progression or a vibe or a groove, and then sometimes it's gibberish that I'll just kind of speak or sort of sing or hum over the top, or other times there'll be like a phrase, like "When the World Says," and from that something will emerge, either a musical idea that says like this piece needs to be this musically, and then I will think about how the text can, what the text needs to do or happen to make sense musically with that. Or sometimes the text will sort of want us to go a certain direction, and then I can bring the music along. And so it's very much this sort of iterative process where text and 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 music influence each other in kind of growing together. Um, and then it oftentimes will involve sort of chicken scratches on a piece of paper where I will have like "When the World Says," well, what kinds of things would the world tell you? What does the world say to us? And then I'll just have a whole bunch. I think for that particular piece, I had maybe 2 or 3 pages of notes, different kinds of things and pressures that the world throws at us, whether we're kids or adults or anywhere in between. Um, and then kind of paring that down, all the while coming back to the piano, playing through some things and then working on structure and proportion. And if it leads kind of towards a pop structure, like okay, I've had enough material here for a verse. Now we kind of move into a pre-chorus or a chorus. Now it needs to go back to a verse. This structure makes sense. What needs to happen with the text in order for this structure to make sense? That's kind of how that piece came, and actually how Heartbeat came into existence as well. And most of the pieces where I'm doing both the text and the music, it's just it feels quite haphazard, to the point where at first I thought this is not the way that choral composers are supposed to write music. Like it was kind of a deal like this probably isn't right. I've got a That was actually one of the reasons why I wanted to go to grad school, thinking like I'm doing it wrong. This isn't right at all. In fact, there was a choral composition contest that I entered right when I was starting off. And I was sitting at a table with the adjudicators, and they were talking about how they got a couple hundred entries. They did not know that I had submitted something for this choral competition. And they a couple hundred entries, and somebody else at the table asked, well, how do you go about deciding what makes the cut and what doesn't, and eventually whittling down to a winner? And they said, well, I've got two piles, two piles. The first one, any composer who writes his own text, I put that in one pile, and then that pile goes in the garbage. They actually said that at the table. And I'm sitting there, of course, trying to remain completely anonymous, didn't want to get into it with them. Uh, and and that was kind of eye-opening. And there was a little bit of discussion there where they were saying, like, yeah, composers really should stick to what they know, which is composing, and let the text writers and poets and lyricists stick to what they know, and never the two shall meet. Really blazoned in my memory.
Which for some people, that should be the case because,
Sure.
That's not their lane. But for some people, like Kyle Pederson, you can do both.
Well, and fortunately, I think there are more. I think 10 years ago when I was starting out, there really was very few people doing both. But now, 10 years in, I look at lots of composers, Jocelyn Hagen, Jacob Narvrud, Tim Takash, so many. Eric Whitaker has written now a couple of his lyrics. So I think that there is a greater acceptance of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a struggle. And I'm not sure why I shared that, if that story was going someplace or if I got on a tangent. I apologize.
Well, it was the relevant question: is what is your inspiration?
Yeah.
Of how do you go about your process of writing text? So I think it's probably to magnify that this is not a route commonly taken, and that it's more accepted worldwide now.
Yeah, I think so. And I just love, being able to create music is awesome. Being able to create text is also awesome. And kind of creating them together is just another way to be creative and to put your creativity out into the world, which I just a big fan of.
Yeah. I love it. Speaking of Does the World Say that you were talking about earlier, how many times have you heard that little kind of the interlude from one refrain into the bridge type section, that piano and violin interlude? How many times have you heard that absolutely butchered?
The vast majority of times. So that was interesting. I'll just share just a little bit about the thought process. So for those of you who don't know the piece very well, in that sort of bridge section, I intentionally offset the left hand of the piano.
Oh, I love it. When it's performed right, it is awesome.
And one of my mentors early on had said to me, Kyle, one thing that you need to be aware of, because you lean into the pop sort of influences quite heavily, and in pop music, there's always a chord change on beat one of a measure. So he said, just be careful that you're not always doing that. Like if it becomes too predictable, if you're always landing on a new chord on beat one, it just gets a little dull. And you want to make sure that the listener and the singer remains interested. And so that I've always, when I approach a tune, at some point, I always ask myself, is it too predictable metrically? And so on this particular piece, I thought, now this middle section, this bridge section would be a nice time to sort of offset things, not only to keep it interesting, but also as a sort of a way to represent the dis-ease or the uneasiness that we have when the world is telling us different stuff. So when the world throws these expectations at us, we sort of have this like, this isn't me, but the world's telling me it needs to be me. And who am I? And how should I act and think and believe? And so it's kind of this swirling. And I wanted that to sort of be represented somehow in the music. And that was one of the solutions I came up with. But it is not intuitive. And so sometimes the piano players and the choir just have a hard time syncing it up. Yeah, you're exactly right. But when it's done well.
Oh, like my accompanist and the violin player who was actually on that recording that you received recently.
Yeah, so good.
She understood, and my accompanist understood. And the choir, I just said, just watch my my pattern and you'll stay on. And like we got it. Like it took some work because the kids were like,
watch my hands and don't let go.
Yeah.
Oh, good one.
We definitely my hands were rocking, maybe not knocking, but sorry, I had to add another one in there.
Yes.
And so it's definitely perfect when it's lined up, but I know I have heard it butchered so many times, and I'm like, I'm sure that just really makes Kyle happy.
At the end, because I'm so adamant about choirs making a piece their own, I am totally fine. In fact, one choir reached out and said, "We just can't get this. Are you okay if we put the downbeats on the downbeat?" And I was like, "By all
Yeah,
means,
do
line
what you
the
need.
heck up." So yeah, it never bugs me.
Well, I know whenever I had asked for a tenor bass voicing of it, and you said, "Hey, I actually just did this. It's not published yet," and you sent it to me, and it was 4-part, and I was like, "Oh, I got 7th and 8th graders." You were like, "Do whatever you need. You can cut parts. You can simplify it. You can cut it down to unison in certain sections if you need to." So just know if you're out there wanting to do Kyle's pieces and you want to make changes, reach out to him first, but he's probably going to be fine with anything because
and that's the beauty of working with someone that understands middle, like especially middle school. Like when you have experience in middle school, like when you're taking a student, let's say to solo an ensemble, and it's a middle school student, I think the accepted rule is change everything necessary to the solo to make it work, as opposed to like collegiate level is change nothing. Like nothing shall be changed, but that's the flexibility portion of it, and that's the important part of music education too.
Yeah. So we appreciate you. And also, it seems like with Does the World Say, I would say, I mean, I obviously, your music way better than anybody. I would say that's like the piece that is just kind of booming a lot, and it has boomed a lot. A lot of your pieces have, but is that one of the reasons why you've added so many different voicings to make it a little bit more accessible recently? Because I know it started off as, 4-part treble?
It was treble,
and then
3 or 4 part.
Yeah, and then you've done SATB, you've done TTBB, you've done SAB now. So is the SAB published now?
Well, let's see. I think the recording that you just did is beautiful. And I don't know whether it's officially engraved and out in the world, but it's going to be ready any day.
I think that's in April, whenever those recordings, and I mean, it might already be out there, but I think in April she's sending all those out for Walton. But yeah, I love that you're willing to make so many different voicings, because there are some composers that are like, no, it's supposed to be 4-part treble or 3-part treble or whatever, because that was your original intent. But I love that you're like, yeah, I'll make different voicings of this so many other people, because again, the text is so powerful for young people. I would say that's the piece that I think of yours, out of all composers. That is the piece that I think of that has had the biggest impact on students, whether it's treble voices or tenor bass voices. Like, they are impacted by the text, and obviously it's beautifully set to the music. So props to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we like to ask this last question to every composer. And it can be a hard question. It can be a fun question. Our goal is that your pieces still sell the same or even more after this question. So,
all right, with that preface, that's good.
So
there's a lot of clever approaches to this question as well. I'll be interested to see what you
so think of Kyle Pederson's music. Okay, what is your? I know you've never heard of it. Think of your favorite Kyle Pederson piece and your least favorite Kyle Pederson piece, but
the ones that suck.
But people are still going to program whichever one you say is your least favorite. Just so you know, if you know Michael Barrett, he was on our show and he said his least favorite is Indodana, which is like his biggest piece, right?
Well, he caveated that one. It wasn't necessarily his.
Yeah,
it's because it's performed the most. You know, It's not necessarily his least favorite piece. He just said that's the one I hear the most.
So you can be strategic with your answer in that way.
Let me look at my catalog here quick. Let's see. 2 things come to mind for favorite piece. One is my extended work called A Vision Unfolding, and that's like a 5-movement work broadly based around social justice themes, with spoken word woven throughout. Put a lot of heart and soul into that. Worked with the spoken word artist Chanel Gabriel out of New York City, who did a bang up job with some beautiful spoken word that she wrote. But the reason it comes to mind in particular is that, like, any day now we're releasing a full orchestrated version of it.
Oh, cool.
Where like the original option was piano with an optional drum, violin and trumpet. And and we had a number of directors who reached out and said, "What about fleshing this thing out?" And so I was able to partner with world-class orchestrator David Maddox, and we just completed the full orchestration. So we're going to have it's going to be strings, full string section, two trumpets, a trombone, a couple of winds, doubling on sax, clarinet, and flute, and a drum kit and auxiliary percussion, piano. And this thing is really going to take flight. I love what David has created. So that comes to mind as something that I'm particularly excited about, and a piece that I've already loved. The other thing that comes to mind is a new piece called "A Republic, If You Can Keep It." Not sure if you guys know that one yet.
Mm-mm.
You would rock it. So the I wanted there to be a piece that people on both sides of the political spectrum could sing about America, they could sing in good faith and not be angry with each other. And so I had the opportunity to do this commission for the Las Vegas Academy of Art, and I took some quotes from the Gettysburg Address from Lincoln, um, government by, of, and for the people. All are created equal, should be non-controversial. I think is non-controversial. Took some quotes from Teddy Roosevelt, and his writings about the beauty and majesty of the American landscape and the character of the American people, also non-controversial. And then Benjamin Franklin's famous quip, where he was asked after the Constitutional Convention, what do we got, Doc? What do we got, Doc Franklin? And Franklin said, well, we've got a republic if you can keep it.
Mm.
And so the invitation now to the choir and to the audiences who listen to this piece are, what will we do to lean into the promise of America, and to make sure that we continue these incredible democratic traditions. Now, of course, because there's widespread agreement that our democracy is teetering. Both sides of the political spectrum tend to blame, of course, the other for why that's the case. But I think everybody agrees that we need to do something to protect and to live into the promise of the democracy. So I think everybody can sing this piece and say that, yes, this is something I can give full-throated approval to. And it's a super fun piano part with a drum. There's options for kids to provide extra narration, sort of leaning into that co-creation piece that I talk about quite a bit. And there's an amazing recording by this Las Vegas Academy of Art where they've incorporated video projection. It's on YouTube right now, and
Oh, cool.
it's just super exciting, and it's perfect for, what is this, the sesquicentennial 250th
250,
anniversary
yeah.
of the founding of the country. So timely, a lot of fun. There's an SATB version, and there's also an SAB version for even more accessibility. So those come to mind for a couple of my favorite pieces.
Yeah.
Least favorite, the one that comes to mind is a piece I wrote called Five Solas. Solas means principle or tenet. I think it's a Latin term. And I had this idea that I was going to celebrate the 500th anniversary of the beginning of the Protestant Reformation. This was back in 2017 was the 500th, and I thought certainly lots of choirs are going to want to celebrate this.
Duh.
I think I miscalculated, and I wrote this piece in Latin, and I loved the music, kind of vibey, esoteric, a little chanty meets modern, a couple of soaring treble soloists, but it was all in Latin, and it was all about the Reformation. And I think maybe three choirs have sung it since. It is annually. It is at the very bottom of my sale list, completely at the very. I think I've got 60 or so pieces out, and when I compare the notes, it is number 60, always. Now,
Now, after this episode comes out, it's at least going up to 59.
I mean, it's legitimate. Are you okay? If you don't mind me asking, are you Lutheran?
mhm,
You are, okay. Well,
yeah.
Protestant Reformation is a big thing
I mean,
within the
I think
Lutheran
about it every
Church,
day, right? What Luther doesn't?
I mean, of note. So I noticed, sorry, because I'm just creepy like that. I noticed that Five Solas, it's in the Richard Biela choral series.
He's amazing.
Yeah, Richard Biela has ties to a Lutheran church that I used to go to in Springfield, Missouri over here.
Uh,
His parents attended the church. Sorry, on a side note, please keep talking
yeah.
about Five Soul
Oh,
Blessings.
well, let me tell you, the story ends a bit happier because when we were talking when Tim Campbell and I from Transcript were talking about pieces to record on this album, we both loved the music of Five Solas, but we didn't love the text. And so Tim and I thought, well, what if I just write a new text for this music? I like the music. I think the music is good. What if I just write a new text? And so we agreed, yes, let's do that. And let's have it sort of be about, sort of encapsulate all of the themes and concepts that we're going to explore in this album. And so I gave my hand at it first and just kept coming up a dead end. I just, which was interesting because I don't normally do that when I write my own text. I usually have some ideas and I just kept coming up blank. And so I thought, who should I contact? Tony Silvestri.
Yep, there you go.
So reached out to Tony and I said, Tony, would you be willing to retrofit, sort of reverse engineer, like you did with Eric Whitacre's Sleep, this existing set of music, make a brand new text around these themes? He said yes, he'd be thrilled to do that. And he created then the text that became All Is Miracle. And so what is my least selling piece is now getting traction finally with Tony's brilliant text, the exact same music, and of course a much better recording now that Transept has recorded it and just done a bang up job. So that kind of brings it sort of a little bit full circle.
Yeah.
That's
Now,
awesome.
All is Miracle is the same music, just a whole lot more engaging and interesting and relevant text.
But
Good answer on that one. That was
the
a nice way to
original
put that
version's
around.
still out there, though, right?
It is. It's petering along there at the bottom of my catalog.
Well, I love it. Yeah, it just cracks me up to hear how composers answer this question. Susan LeBar said grace before sleep. Like, if you can believe it, because she wrote it.
Everyone's like, let me take my most popular
Yeah.
piece and put it as my least favorite.
Well, she wrote it so long ago, and she's learned so much since then. So she's like, I would have
yeah.
changed so much. So I love that you learned from lack of sales, and you were like, well, I love this piece. Let's just change it up a little bit. That's genius.
Change it up. Change it up. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
awesome. Well, that is all we have for you, Kyle. We appreciate you so much being on the show today. And we appreciate the organ in the background, and it totally works, and it's not just for show, right?
Well, it really is. I had thoughts of being an organist before I was a composer, and that was short-lived. Very hard to coordinate left hand with the feet. Very hard. But I do use it once in a while for composing, but mostly it is just for show. Yeah.
Nice. So it does work. That's good. That's good.
It does work. Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you being on, and we appreciate everything that you do for the field of choral music, just the incredible, modern, and deep, meaningful text that you bring into our students' lives every single day in the classroom with your pieces. So we appreciate you, and thanks for being just the nicest dude.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate it. And thank you for what you guys do. Choir Guys is awesome. Awesome podcast. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Well, if anybody wants to contact you about, hey, can I change all these things about your piece to make it accessible for my elementary school classroom, how can they contact you?
Yeah, you can find me at kylepederson.com, or you can find me on social media, and I respond right away to you.
Yeah, he really does. And sometimes he even says, hey, I just drove past a sign that says Nixon, Missouri.
I did. I thought I'm here. I think Blake's here. I said, "Why don't we can stop? The whole family can stop. Let's do it." Yeah.
That's funny. Well, that wraps up this week's episode of the Choir Guys podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube to the Choir Guys channel so you can know when new episodes are coming out. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
We could not be more thankful for our incredible sponsors. Please make sure to visit their websites and check them out in the description box below. If you're interested in partnering with the Choir Guys, please email us at thechoirguyspod@gmail.com.
You can follow the show on all social media at the Choir Guys Pod to catch bonus content throughout the week. We might even post some of Kyle Pederson's incredible pieces that he's been talking about, these new recordings and all that kind of stuff. We will post that this week. Feel free to message us through these platforms if you want to hear us talk about something specific on the show.
Thanks again to our guest, Kyle Pederson, for joining us on the podcast today. Your pieces speak light, hope, and love into our classrooms every day, and we cannot be more grateful.
Well, we will see you in a couple weeks.
Bye!
Bye!
With over 800,000 sheet music titles and growing, Gateway Sheet Music should be your first stop when you're searching for the perfect piece. Scott and Jeff have built a musician-friendly site that's fast, reliable, and full of gems. And if you still can't find the piece you're looking for, just call 314-894-7000 and they'll go the extra mile, because
when it comes to music, we know our sheet.
Visit gatewaysheetmusic.com today. Have you ever stayed at a boutique hotel? You know, one of those places where everything is curated to be ultra special? Well, that's exactly the approach they take at Walton Music. Think of Walton as your boutique choral publisher. The Walton catalog features exceptional works from around the world, each carefully chosen for its musical excellence and supported with helpful tools for performers. With Walton Music, you're not just selecting music, you're choosing a curated quality experience with all of the details to help you and your choir succeed. Need better sight readers? Sight Reading Factory has you covered. With infinite customizable exercises and auto-graded assignments, your choir will level up fast. Visit sightreadingfactory.com and start simplifying your rehearsals today. At Endeavor Music Publishing, composers receive 50% of sales royalties, far above the typical 10% industry rate. Support the music and the creators. Learn more at endeavormusicpublishing.com. Do your students groan when it's time for sight singing? With the S-Cube sight singing program, they won't. It's 5 to 10 minutes a day, 3 to 5 times a week, and it actually works because it's part method and part mindset. 3/4 of learning and 1/4 of fun equals success. That's the S-Cubed way. Try it today and make sight singing the best part of your rehearsal.